The media creating an air of inevitability ahead of Hillary Clinton's potential White House run. Since right after the 2012 election, the former Secretary of State has been portrayed as a shoo-in for the Democratic nomination in 2016. I'm sure that's not a newsflash to you. But Clinton has stayed quiet on the subject, a move some analysts say could hurt any future campaign. Howard Kurtz is the host of Media Buzz and a Fox News media analyst. He's not one of those analysts that's saying it could hurt her campaign, but you say there are some people that we should focus on when it comes to Hillary Clinton. Howard, who are these people?
This whole thing just cracks me up, Jenna, because yes, we ought to look at the people who Hillary works with, the people around her, the people who might staff her administration. But this obsession that the media have with an election 3 years from now, and Hillary Clinton, who was on the cover of the New York Times Magazine as a planet or an asteroid or something, it's kind of like, boy, she's inevitable, isn't she? Yeah, she's a juggernaut. I wonder what she's going to say in her inaugural speech. And then this piece in BuzzFeed turns it around and says she's really trotting a dangerous path here because she's projecting herself as inevitable, and voters don't like that. It looks like she's taking it for granted, but we're the ones who keep her in the news day after day after day.
And Howard, is it really a story? I'm just thinking about all the different top news stories that we as the media can cover. Is whether or not Hillary's going to run on February 7th, 2013, really a story? Really a story?
Even in 2014, look, she's at least
a
year away. I've made that mistake on my checks. She's at least a year away from making this decision. It will eventually be a very big story. And yes, you know, even the early polls, wow, she's 60 points ahead of Joe Biden or any other Democrat. It's meaningless at this point, but we can't help ourselves. I do think that Hillary drives ratings. She drives clicks online. And yet, you know, this notion that she's not saying much, therefore she doesn't have a message, therefore she's in trouble, you know, in early 2014. Well, she doesn't want to be a candidate yet because we would all be sick of her by the time the 2016 rolls around.
It is interesting, though. She does get attention, for example, that tweet during the Super Bowl. Right?
I was going to mention that.
When she chooses to enter into the fray. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, you know, I think that she or her speechwriters came up with something very funny during the Super Bowl. There was a little bit of a swipe at Fox, obviously. It was funny. And yet I saw, you know, serious political prognosticators spending days analyzing it. Is she too sensitive? What did she really mean by that? Was she talking about Obama? Just shows you that there is this sort of tremendous appetite for Hillary news, even when Hillary isn't doing much, even when she's just tweeting. And I think it's because of this media obsession.
You know, does it bring you to, by the way, just for context, I mean, she did tweet out to about 1 million followers, but Katy Perry right now has 50 million followers. So it's even interesting to see, you know, what gets attention to what audience, you know, and here she had this one tweet to about 1 million people, and then suddenly it was national news. Just real quick, Howard, just in general about the purpose of the media in a democracy is freedom of the press, right? We want to make sure that voters are informed of issues so they can actively participate in democracy. I mean, I believe that. In this way that we're already looking ahead at the elections, are we serving our purpose as journalists? Are we productive members of this freedom of the press and democracy? Or are we playing a role in politics that maybe we should not be playing?
Yeah, that's the real problem here, Jenna, is that there are a lot of issues facing the country, but they're complicated. CBO report of how many jobs would be or hours would be lost under Obamacare. But speculating about 2016 and Hillary Clinton and if she's going to run against Jeb Bush or Chris Christie, that's easy. It's cheap. It's fun, but it doesn't really help people who are trying to deal with problems today as opposed to an election that's going to take place 3 years from now.
It is cheap. It's sort of cheap like a news anchor that doesn't know what year it is. You know what I mean, Howard? It's a lie. Thank you again for correcting me on that. Howard, it's great to see you as always. Howard covers the coverage of the week's top stories on his show Media Buzz. You can catch that Sunday at 11 o'clock and 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the Fox News channel. Howard, thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.